Okay. Well, welcome back to the podcast, Mom.
Well, thanks for having me, Michelle.
Yeah.
I hope this
We,
is as interesting to your audience as it is to us.
oh my gosh, we can talk for hours about this stuff. We had a previous episode, I think it was episode 106 on next level aging. And that was part one, where we talked about some of the new observations, maybe challenges with advancing in years. And so today we're going to talk about part two, which are the things that you have done over time to really set yourself up for success that you feel like have influenced in a positive way how you are aging so well. And I love that you put in parentheses stuff I'm glad I did, which could have been yesterday. So
yes,
just
yes.
invite people to think about, don't get too hung up on timelines or feel like, well, good for her that she was able to do that 40 years ago.
Yeah. And some of this stuff is going to feel like that, trust me.
100%.
But yeah, especially the first one that I put down here.
Right.
Yes.
And really cellularly, your cells are turning over every single day. That's something I had learned in my nutrition class. So on a cellular level, you as you are sitting or standing there today you're different than you were a week ago because your cells are turning over. So there really is no better time like the present.
That is something I really would like to emphasize. That basically, what I'm talking about is stuff that happened in my life and sort of the timelines on when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm a great believer in that you have a future until the moment your body, and your spirit are separated.
Right.
You have a future. It could be a short future or it can be a long future. And what I saw with your two grandmothers was that future dragged out much after they were my age.
Well, yeah, certainly they
Yeah.
both lived to their mid 90s. So we really don't know. Don't make an assumption that you're not going to live that long anyway. So it doesn't matter because we really don't know how long we're going to live. So any
And
little thing that
yes.
you can bring attention to and you're willing to consider as a way to set yourself up for success for the future, there's value.
And yes, and yes, that's exactly right. And your future starts now.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a college slogan or something.
Yeah, it belongs on a t-shirt or something.
Right.
So,
College
and
shirt. Yeah.
so I've alluded a little bit to one of the first things that I didn't even think about until I think 2 nights ago or last night or something, was that I stopped smoking when I was 24 years old.
Okay. What year was that for frame of reference? Because there was a period of time where doctors
1916.
were
Yes.
recommending smoking. So what year was it?
Yeah, there was 1969.
Okay.
1969, and I was in my last year of law school. And actually, your father and I decided that we were going to stop smoking. And he actually quit a couple of weeks before I did, believe it
Okay.
or not. And up until then, I mean, we were at least a pack a day. And when I was traveling, I loved trying out cigarettes in different countries. It was like really something that I loved. And I felt like I'm a little bit shy in many ways. And going to parties, having a cigarette and a drink was it made me feel like it didn't matter if anybody was talking to me or not, in a
Right.
way. or I didn't have to feel like I didn't belong or anything like that. So giving it up was really like saying goodbye to a friend that I had had in high school and
Right.
all through college, and the parties and things that we had. But at a certain point, it was my father, Dean
Mhm.
Ferris, a
Mhm.
scientist,
Yep.
who I didn't even know knew I smoked. He was talking to me about the fact that they had discovered that smoking affected the fetuses of
Okay.
when they were in utero, if the mother smoked.
Okay.
And now we know that extends to secondhand smoke too. But at the time, and he said that they had just figured this out, really. And after he said that, I thought, we didn't have children. And I thought, I better stop now because I think I can stop now. I think
Okay.
I've got the strength and whatever, strength of character or whatever it takes to stop something as addictive as cigarettes are. Um, so it was my last semester or it was my last year of law school. And we stopped going to parties. We stopped going to picnics. We stopped getting together with people to reinforce that we were quitting.
Right.
And I made it through my first set of exams without smoking. Now, there was plenty of secondhand smoke, don't get me wrong, because all of my colleagues at law school pretty much were smoking.
Right.
But I did make it through. I made it through the first set of exams. And for the next 10 years, I would wake up in the morning and say, did I smoke yesterday? And then I would remember that I couldn't have because it was in a dream. And in the dream, I was in a house that didn't exist.
Oh my gosh.
And so, but for 10 years, I had very vivid dreams about smoking.
That's
And
weird.
I know but I'm telling you, this is a major thing. If
Right.
you can do, and I watched your grandma Masters on air. I don't know if she had COPD or
You
what
did.
she had COPD. So I looked at her and I thought, well, she had to quit smoking anyway. So why didn't she quit smoking 100 years ago?
Oh my God.
I mean, we didn't know back in her day, but basically, if she had quit when she was in her 50s, let's say, which would have been about the time I quit,
Mm-hmm.
um, she probably wouldn't have needed to be on oxygen and have
Right.
all the stuff going on.
That's
And
really significant.
and she had to stop anyway. All
Right.
those people, you're gonna have to stop at some point.
Like if you end up on oxygen, it's not advised
Well,
to smoke around oxygen
I've,
tank.
a friend of mine, her aunt was on oxygen. She stepped out of the hospital room and she kind of burned her face because the oxygen mask kind of exploded,
Oh my
when
God.
yeah, I mean, it's just like, if you're going to have to quit anyway, do yourself a favor. Even if you're 78 years old, quit
Yeah.
now. Because
Yes.
then you might get 20 years in of not smoking if you can do it. And there are a
Right.
lot more techniques now than there were back then.
Right.
Um, but that was one of the very first things that I had forgotten. Every time I go in, though, to have any kind of medical exam or any kind of medical procedure, have you ever smoked?
Mm.
And honestly, they said, well, how old were you when you stopped? How many years ago? No, they asked me how many years ago it stopped when I had my cataract surgery. And I'm like, I didn't know there was going to be math
Right.
involved.
I'll tell you my age. You do the math.
You do the math, you're the nurse, but I'm
Yeah.
like, honestly, and you know, you can round the numbers up or down or something to make it easier for you. But anyway, they still ask as an incidental to some kind of a scan I had. There was a note on the report of a lung damage. And nobody said anything about it because that isn't why they did the scan.
Right.
But I'm like thinking, oh, so all those years later, and I feel fine, my lungs are fine, and so on, but there is damage there that was probably done by the smoking that I did.
And had you continued, it would have been
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
I feel like that isn't one of my, I mean, I try to do breathing exercises even. Well, with your grandmother, I said, didn't they give you some breathing exercises? She's like, oh yeah, they're in the basket down there somewhere. She went. And so I beg of you people, you know, basically,
Yeah.
it's worth it because it makes it, even doing the exercises that are required.
Well, and so,
it.
I mean, we noted that she lived to her mid-90s. So while she had longevity, that quality of life was impacted with the COPD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and yeah, well, for sure. I mean, her last years were not comfortable.
Right.
No.
Certainly.
And she had to quit smoking anyway.
And she had to quit smoking anyway. There's your lesson, folks.
That's
right.
that is, if you're gonna have to stop anyway, you might as well stop now. That's my attitude about a lot of this stuff.
I love it.
And I'm gonna pick it up a little bit out of order is alcohol.
Okay.
As long as we're on. Now, I loved Grandma and Granddad Masters. I used to go to their house and party like it was the future, you know, or the past or something. And that's where I learned to drink gin. That's where I learned to drink, was at their house. And I loved myself a gin and tonic. And we started experimenting with wine, your father and I, when I was in law school. We would buy a bunch of different kinds of wine and try them out and all this kind of stuff. We never got too sophisticated at that point. But anyway, time progressed, and I don't know, I think there were a lot of things about interacting after we'd been drinking that were probably not very constructive, but you know, nothing that was out of the ordinary for the time and for the people that we were with. But fast forward, you were just a baby, and my non-drinking parents were taking care of you, and your dad and I went to some kind of a political function. It was a cocktail party, and they kept replacing my gin and tonics. And I remember the whole evening shockingly vividly, but I drank a lot of gin and tonics. And on the way home, that we had to stop the taxi so I could get sick, and and other embarrassing things that happen when you drink too much. And that was a block from home. We walked the rest of the way home. I took a left turn out of the entryway to go into the bathroom and clean myself up. Your dad took a right turn to deflect my parents.
Like something shiny, something sparkly.
Yeah, right. Nothing to see over here, nothing to see back here. And that was the last that's the last spirits I drank. I wasn't interested in any other kind, but I stopped. And there again, I was 27 probably. And I was just like, I don't know how that happened. I was not aware of how much I was drinking. I'm not doing that. And that was not easy either, because we had a party the following weekend out of town, and there was a lot of nice gin there, and you know, I thought, wow, but I didn't do it. I stopped. I
Oh,
stopped drinking any kind of spirits, really. And but gin and tonic was my drink.
I
And
mean,
then,
it feels like you had these like little moments of mindful awareness, I guess is what we would call it now, but you had these little moments of awareness where you kind of woke up that you had to quit, and it didn't mean that it was easy, but you had more resolve because you had that awareness, as opposed to
yes,
trying to like battle back and forth with your will.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I was very busy and was working full time and had a small child, and we did party though. We partied hard.
Yeah.
Now, none of the other stuff really took off for me. So, and then we started getting into wine a little bit. And but over the years, I would take like a year off
Mm.
from drinking, but I always wanted to go back, you know. But there are certain over the years, and then at a certain point, when I had the problems that sent me to the allergist, she said, stop drinking beer and wine and stop eating yeast. And, because
Mhm.
this is causing a lot of don't eat sugar. So there were a lot of big changes that took place medically. But I told her, I said, I don't feel I'm not giving up wine at that point. And I didn't give up beer either, because that was part of my social life. But at one point I did stop drinking the beer, and this was when I was in my 60s. And I was like, when I decided to go back and have a beer, I was like, well, this doesn't taste good to me.
Mm.
So I stopped drinking beer then. And then fast forward, I got to be quite the expert on wine. And I really, people would talk to me about wine, and we all had a good conversation. We had some beautiful wines. And if you had told me that I was going to stop drinking wine, this. I
Mhm.
said, if it isn't a Burgundy in that
IV bag.
IV bag, just unhook me and let me go. I mean, I thought I would be drinking the best Burgundy on earth on, on my deathbed. I really
Yeah,
did. I never dreamed that I would stop drinking. And but now that I know so much more about it, and then what happened was this wasn't that long ago, and is that it just stopped smelling good to me, it stopped tasting good to me. I started getting headaches. I didn't feel very good after I'd even had a couple of glasses. And so it was over a period of time that I couldn't believe it. I was like hanging on for dear life.
mm,
I am happy at this point that I don't want it and I don't drink it,
yeah,
because of the things that it was doing to me and how different I am, when you have such clarity about what's going on around you.
absolutely.
I mean, it's just like, and this from your own experience. We had friends that we used to go to dinner with all the time, and we had this little time period where we weren't drinking. And we said, you know what? I wonder if those are people we want to be friends with, because unless we're drinking, they're kind of hard to be around.
Yeah. What an
Yeah.
observation.
Wow.
Great.
That was just like so. And since then, I mean, my bedtime hours have become very regular, and I feel much better, much better. And there's never, I got a kit to test, the alcohol
Oh,
sobriety
the
kits.
breathalyzer?
Breathalyzer, yes, I got one of those. And I was blowing into that thing some mornings and saying, oh my God, I can't even drive.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, because the wine was so good the night before. I didn't feel bad, but really since then I felt much better. And that is something I might, if I were listening to this earlier, I
Mhm.
might have stopped earlier. If I was listening to myself talk now,
Right.
When I was younger, I might have said, you know what, probably not worth it.
You know, you touched on sleep, and I think that is something that people really struggle with, especially in our country, and especially as family care partners, is getting a good night's sleep. And the
Yeah.
difference I feel it has made for me, and it sounds like for you too, is pretty significant, like regulated sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I must say, I mean, I don't sleep through the night the way I would like to, or the way I think I did when I was working.
Mm.
Um, but I'm still working on that. But definitely, passing out is not sleeping, folks.
That is a mean
Okay.
quote. Oh, let's just
Okay.
take a pause on that. Passing
Yeah,
out is not sleeping.
not sleeping.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. So it's not
Okay,
the same thing. It's not the same thing. So never mind that. Okay, let's
let's
talk
keep
about
going.
money.
Money.
So I became a lawyer, so I had jobs, and I got to make decent money. And then I got to make more than decent money. And and also, though I was in a relationship where we weren't on the same page about money, and so there was debt, and there was a lot of confusion and disagreement about money, where it could come from and how it should be spent, and so on. And when I got out of that relationship, I was like really broken in debt. And I'm just like, I don't want to live like this.
Mm.
So I would have been, it's like, I'm trying to do the math. It's hard. But let's say let's go with, it was 1981. I know what year it was. So I would have
Great.
been, you know, uh,
I was
in my,
9, if that's easier math.
well, not for me, but
Yeah.
so anyway, it was good. I was 1981, and so I started working on, I had my own business, and it was all right. Um, I was in venture capital, but I was the person helping create the companies and so on and so forth. So, it was like I had a couple of employees, and so it was like, still, I had no partner, so it was just me, and it was okay. I did okay, but I was like, the credit cards were always there, and stuff like that was going on. And
Mhm.
there was one moment where I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to meet tomorrow's payroll.
Mm.
And that didn't just affect me, it affected the people who were working for me. And I remember that night vividly. I was just like, I want money in the bank. I want
Yes.
it in the bank. And it took me a couple of years, and a couple of the companies that I had worked with came through. And I managed to get completely out of debt, but then I had a hard time, really staying out of debt. And I was seeing a therapist, and I said, what is going on here? I got myself out of debt. It was a big goal of mine. And now look at me. I'm just like, I'm living the high life or whatever, and I'm not doing what I need to do. And he said, well, it's like being tied to a pole. You want to get free from that pole, and then somebody cuts you free, and you can't stand up because you have not been standing up all that time.
Wow.
So all the stand-up muscles are gone. So you have to kind of work on getting your stand-up muscles back in shape. So the pole was a support as well as a restraint. And so with that good advice, I managed to get out of debt. went and lived in Paris for a couple of years. But there again, I said, when my bank account hits this level, I'm going home. And it hit that level. I went home. I had no debt. And I have never been in debt since then.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a huge, significant impact for a size
Impact.
what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I had two daughters to help get through university. And so I thought, I'm tired of being responsible for my own health care, my own whatever, everything.
Right.
I'm going to go take a job with somebody who will do all of that and pay me money. And so I ended up going back into the workforce. And I'd already wrapped up the business before I went to Paris because we had done some significant things. And then it's like there's a natural ending to some things, and it had reached a natural ending.
Yeah.
And so I took jobs, I put everything that the law allowed into the retirement plans that they had, the 401ks that they had, and especially up to where they would match. And if I got to a point where I needed the money, I would cut back, but only to the point where I never stopped, only to the point where they were matching, because that's 100% return on your investment.
So this is interesting because we're kind of coming at this from two angles. One is if you are someone who is over 65, and then the other is, of course, those people who are 35 to 65 who are maybe in that care partnering role and really taking advantage of those employer match programs.
Absolutely. Anything you can take advantage of. And I lived below my means because I was a little bit behind, because I was already in my 40s at that point.
And you were just starting saving.
I was just starting saving.
Yeah.
So, I said, I got to get busy here, because I mean, when you're in your 40s, you you have a lot of time left. I mean, only an event would cut your life short.
Right.
See, that's the difference between where I am now and where I was then, is that then you said, if everything happens normally and I don't get sick or hit by a bus, I'm going to be responsible for my children and myself. And there's nobody else. There's nobody behind me. There's no inheritance coming. There is nothing that I don't provide for myself.
Right.
And so, and one of the things since then on the reading I've done is they said that wealthy people are often wealthy just by working a regular job, living a reasonable life. But on top of that, though, and this, I treated myself. Every time I got an unexpected, like a bonus, or every year I got a bonus in the jobs that I came to inhabit. And but a lot of people don't. But anyway, there are little pieces that come into all of us. And I would break off a little bit of that to treat myself.
Yeah.
Which brings me to re-piercing my ears.
Oh, setting you up for success in your later years by re-piercing your ears. Tell me more.
Okay, so when I was 16 years old, I had wanted to get my ears pierced, and it was like not exactly the thing that people in my socioeconomic group did. The parents certainly didn't do it. But I was like, I want my ears pierced. And my mother surprisingly agreed. Grandma Ferris said, yes, because your earlobes are so small that you won't be able to put clip-on earrings on them.
Oh gosh, so practical.
So I can understand that, so she took me off to a doctor and he did the best he could and whatever. And we didn't know you were supposed to bring earrings with you. And there was a lot of other stuff. So the holes were kind of a little bit wonky, and I was wearing loop earrings a lot of the times and heavier earrings sometimes. And I actually just stopped wearing earrings for at a certain point when I got a little bit older. But they were off center, and one of them was a little bit stretched out. They were a little stretched out, and they just weren't very nice. Well, I got a bonus. And I said to myself, I want diamond earrings.
Mm-hmm.
These very earrings, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to put them in these earlobes. So I was talking with my dermatologist, of whom I saw every 6 months to have important things done. And I said, I really want to get my ears re-pierced. And she said, oh, I do that all the time. So ladies and gentlemen, whatever foolishness you got up to in your youth, when you get a little older, sometimes you don't want that. You want it differently. You want it neater. You want it gone, even. Let's say you have 4 or 5 piercings and you really want to get it down to 1 or something like that. You go into a dermatologist, and if you only have the 2 ear piercings, it's not even that expensive, honestly. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just, and what they do, I won't go into gory details, but
Thank
they
you.
they actually repair that so that
Sew it
it
up.
heals, sew it up. And I'm not going to go into details because you don't feel a thing. They
Okay.
sew it up, they put a little bandage on it, and they say, we'll see you in 6 weeks. And that heals. And there might be a small scar. It depends on what your situation was.
Yeah.
But usually not that noticeable. So 6 weeks later, I went in. She had her little machine, which they didn't have back in my day. And she put this, she said, I'm going to give you a diamond earring, earrings for your ears when I pierce them. So they're like high grade, like it's a little chip of a diamond.
Yeah.
And I think it was gold. What she said, I'm going to give you gold and diamond earrings. And so then she just did the little thing like everybody does when they go to the mall, because
Oh,
they're, in the doctor's office.
right.
And then you just do the things that you were supposed to do when you're a teenager, and you get new earlobes. It's like this is so important for
Yeah.
when you get old, because you don't want those saggy old holes. Honestly, you don't.
Well, and I think what I'm also taking out of this, if there's something that you feel dissatisfied with about your body, it's okay to make that investment in yourself now, because
Absolutely.
we're going to keep taking ourselves with us into these later advanced years. And you want to feel and look your best and just
Yes.
feel as confident as possible. So if there's something that you're feeling like you're interested in having done, like re-piercing your ears, explore it.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, even this was something I was very happy that I did, was that one of my friends had her little spider veins.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get rid of those for you. Now they do come back. That's all I'm saying. But for many years, I did it a couple of times actually, and I loved the results. I mean, I was very happy. Now that stuff does come back, so it's not permanent, but it's something I'm happy I did.
Right. And just
Yeah.
get informed about it. So what about your teeth?
Yes, my teeth. So one of the things is I look a lot like my father. I think we can all agree on that.
Mhm.
And one of the things about, as my father was a very handsome man
Very good
and
looking
looked
guy.
very, yeah, he looked like a movie star.
Yes.
Honestly, you thought you were living with Indiana Jones when you were growing up with my dad.
Yeah.
As he got older, um,
I was gonna see if I
his teeth got a little bit wonky,
Uh-huh.
not horribly, but they just look like old teeth to me, quite honestly.
Yes.
And the bottom ones were not straight, and and so on.
Here, I have a picture.
There we go. Yes.
I don't know if I can get the camera to focus on it, but yes, there's
Yeah.
the seam.
So it's hard to, yeah, here we are, not that far apart, genetically very close.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to see his teeth, but he
Yes.
had old teeth. And I said, I'm going to get through the pictures of my 60th birthday. Then I'm going to go in and have those teeth. I've always had trouble with my teeth anyway. And I was having trouble keeping some of the bottom ones. I would bleed every time I flossed,
Mm.
which is not a good sign. And I had talked to a dentist about it, and they said, yeah, you should probably do, there are a couple of alternatives. Some people go for veneers and this kind of thing to get that straightened out. But I thought, I don't want to do veneers. That seemed like something that would be, for me, a complication in the future.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm going to do the braces. So I talked to my dentist about it, and he referred me to a very, like a Park Avenue orthodontist. And I worked out a payments thing where I could use this basically medical fund that they provide. Your employer, well, you target a certain amount of money in there. You have to spend it all.
Like an
Uh,
HSA or
yeah, and I've written the name of it in here someplace. But
yeah.
anyway, and so I started the 2-year process, and I made a decision to go with the old-fashioned uh, brackets and wires and so on. Other people have done Invisalign, which is now, I think, even more better developed now than it was
Mhm.
back then. But I made the decision to just go like a teenager.
Yeah. So in your
And
60s, you had braces.
yeah, for a couple of years. And
Yeah.
I have pictures of that, which I might put when I post this thing. I might put pictures of me in my braces. And it was interesting because I believe that influenced several other people in senior positions in the company where I worked to also get braces,
Mm.
because the chief financial officer, not too long after I got mine, he got braces.
Hmm.
So, and this isn't just vanity. This is because if your teeth are crooked or something, if you can't floss properly, chances are you're going to get a gum disease, you're going to lose those teeth at some point. There's going to be issues.
Right.
So there are medical reasons for doing this. And my teeth were perfect when I was younger. So it was just the aging process itself
Mhm.
that caused me to say, when I see pictures of myself, I want to look like the way I want to look.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the aesthetic reason, and we really do want to keep our teeth as long as possible.
Yes.
And having a partial bridge or an implant or a denture, I mean, there's so much technology now that's so far advanced, but you really do want to try and keep your own teeth for as long as possible. So that was such a great
Yes, it
way
was a
for you to do
great,
that.
and just to for perspective, I did this at 60.
Yes.
Yeah, where you're thinking of things I did in the past that I appreciate now that I'm older.
Right.
That wasn't even that long ago. And yet it makes a big difference on my aging process.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. What about diet and exercise?
Yes. Well, the interesting thing was that I've never been a particularly big person, overweight person. And so I never thought too much about it. If I wanted to lose weight, I would count up to a certain amount of calories, and then that's what I ate. And maybe I ate healthy and maybe I didn't. But I just did it like that.
Yes.
And then when I went through menopause, um, people kept saying, I don't, you could eat anything, they said to me. And I thought, what the heck? Let's give it a try.
Okay.
And so and I went through menopause at 40. So let's keep that in mind too.
Okay.
Most people don't have that challenge on top of everything else. Most women, that's early. Let me just say that it's early. It's not unknown, but it's early. Um, and so I kind of started gaining a little weight, and it is very funny when you hear about people. I was listening to this podcast, and when the the person who was doing the interviewing said, well, it's the expert on habits said, why do you want to lose weight? And it's like, well, I just hate it when my pants are tight. And she said, well, if that's it, just buy new pants.
Yeah.
So let's get down to what's really going on.
Right.
Because honestly, if you're okay with, and he said, well, no, I don't like the way my face looks. I don't like the way I feel in my body and this kind of thing. But I chose getting bigger pants.
Hey.
Yeah, and I was just like, what the heck? So, I gave away all of my thin person clothes and bought a bunch of clothes. And then you gave me a call and said, Mom, I've gained some weight my freshman year. I'm not happy about it. What can we do while I'm living with you over the summer? I'm like, well, maybe we should learn about eating. Let's go to Weight Watchers. And I thought we had the best time. We did.
Yeah, it was so
And
good.
we would go to a meeting and at first they would give you a menu for 3 weeks. Back in those days, they gave you a menu. We would go to the meeting, we would go out and have a little dinner that kind of fit in with the Weight Watcher plan. And then we would go shopping for a few days, maybe even the whole week. We would figure out what we were going to have, and it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. And we learned a lot about food. I learned about classifying things not by the number of calories, but by what it did for your body.
Right.
What the nutritional value was. Now, this program has changed in so many ways. And so you went off, and I feel like you learned a lot from that.
Sure did. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, about eating and setting up a food plan. I learned a lot, and became a lifetime member. And so the main thing about this is that my family does, most of my female relatives had suffered from really what's got to be morbid obesity.
It's like conditions that were the result of obesity, congestive heart failure,
Yes.
some other things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that this wouldn't have happened to them anyway. I mean, there's a lot, but I am saying that it did complicate their health picture.
Yes.
And also they weren't comfortable.
Right.
And it made it hard. I mean, it just like, maybe they were satisfied. I don't know. I knew that I had the technology to eat properly,
Right. The
to make
information, the
the
resource.
information, and also the information on how to stay within a certain range
Right.
of weight. And I still go to now with the remote meetings and so on. They have remote meetings on Zoom for lifetime members, which is I do enjoy the meetings because you get to
Mhm.
talk about food for one thing.
Right. Yeah. There's camaraderie and common interests.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a part of my social life in many respects because
I want, I'd like to draw people's attention to this also, this concept of when you think about the people who are caregivers in a senior living setting or potentially a home health setting, specifically in senior living, I'm thinking many of the people that are the CNAs that are actually helping people get up out of bed are in their early 20s. They're these little young ladies.
yes.
And so if you weigh a certain amount, you are then classified as a two-person assist. And so that has really stuck with me as I continue my own aging journey. And I think about what I want things, how I want things to go and look like is if you are a two-person assist because one person is unable to physically assist you from getting up out of bed, transferring to a chair or a wheelchair to take you to the restroom, it takes longer for two people to get to the room. Potentially, there's going to be equipment involved, like lifts and things. And so just to have that in mind, like to set yourself up successfully as you are continuing your aging journey. If you have
Yes.
any kind of medical incident, even in the hospitals, and it requires equipment or more than one person to assist you, that is just something to be aware of and take into consideration.
So that actually leads into another topic, and that's exercise. And the
Yes.
reason I'm going to make that liaison is because as you know, I work with a trainer. And one of the things that we do every time there's a training session is I get down on the ground and do some exercises on the ground. Um, then I get up from the ground.
Yeah.
And uh, she often has me just walk up. But the other thing is when I put one knee up and the other leg laying flat and then just push up and get up. And sometimes I use my hand on the ground. Sometimes I just push on my knee. I noticed that there are certain toilets in the city that I need to be able to push up and get
Right.
up
Yeah.
unassisted. Um, and she was saying that I am one of the few she's going 10 years younger, 10 years older. She's like, you're one of the few I have who can get up off the ground.
Man, that's
Yeah.
big. And like just to reiterate, because I don't think we've shared your age on this
Oh,
episode, you're
yeah.
almost 80. You are
Yes, I'm 2
78.
years short of 80
Right.
and 78. And so that is, and she said to me this morning, and she said, because she thought I have makeup on now, but I didn't at that point.
You're talking about your trainer?
My trainer, yes.
Okay.
We're on Zoom. And I said, well, I have to go get ready because I have an interview. And so she said, well, like, what do you have to do to get ready? And I said, well, I have to put makeup on. And she's like, you don't have makeup on? And I said, no, I haven't put the makeup on yet. And she said, well, surely you have lipstick on. And I'm like, no, I actually don't. I don't know how this happened,
Right.
honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did, and now I do have makeup on now. But at that moment, she said, if I'm doing what you're doing in 10 years, I would be so happy.
Yes.
So,
Right. Well, and
so
these are all the little things. That's what we've been talking about today. These are all
yeah.
the little things that really set you up for success.
That, yes. And so that's definitely, and I know it's like, I know, people are going to say, well, it was easy for you or whatever. Uh, I'm on a conference call once a week with other people who look like me, who are saying, I was so tempted. I did this, I did that. I had a bad day. I had a bad week. I went on vacation, and somehow, and there's this group, and I'm I don't know. You have to find your own group or whatever, but I'm just saying it's not easy for anybody to
You're paying
maintain.
attention.
Yes, and I mean it's just like in that program, it's called the maintenance, and you go through like a 6-week period before you become a lifetime member when you reach a goal weight. And it's learning to eat what you need to sustain you health in a healthy way. Have your treats. Again, it's like with the money. Yes, sometimes you're going to splurge on a pair of diamond earrings,
Right.
but if it jeopardizes your health, then you need to really sit down and think about it. And that's one of the things. I am extremely happy that we did that,
Yeah.
and you are on your own, and you still manage to figure out how to maintain your weight, and you
Sure. And
don't
I've
need
had
a
my
group.
own ups and downs and back and
Yes,
forth, but it's really just not giving up on yourself for the idea that your health can be improved with any little change you make, and that
yes,
the impact that can have on the future is meaningful and significant.
yes. And if
Yeah.
and as you know, the most recent sister, my last remaining sister, passed away at the age of 81, and she was so obese that it took 3 members of the family to just situate her in the
Care
bed
for
to give
her,
her
and yeah,
care.
yeah,
Yeah. And that had quite an impact on me.
yeah. Well,
So
we need to wrap up, but I want to hear a little bit more about the things that you're doing now, like high heels and
yes,
dresses and
yeah.
skirts, just things that little changes that you're making right now at 78 to set yourself up for success.
When I was 77, well, when it was before that, it was actually at Allison's wedding, my stepdaughter's wedding,
Mm-hmm.
where I was wearing a skirt and I had makeup on my legs, and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not doing this again.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 2 more weddings, but one just took place a year ago, where I said, I'm going to get myself some fancy, I don't like long dresses. They're really not for me, but pants that are kind of glamorous looking, just I want to look glamorous, but I'm not doing that anymore. I just don't want my legs sticking out there. They just don't, I have great legs, but I just didn't like the way they looked with
Yeah.
skirts and dresses. So I said, that's it. I'm not going to do dresses anymore. Um, so that was, and then um, last year, when I was 77, I put on my Manolo Blahniks that I'd worn to all the weddings and a few other
Mhm.
things. And they fit perfectly, and they were nice shoes and everything. But at the end of the wedding part in the pictures, I swapped them out for flats to wear to the reception
Mhm.
in my little pantsuit,
Mhm.
whatever. It wasn't anyway. And I thought, I'm not doing that again. I
Yeah.
am not doing that again. And been buying flats and trying to get the right ones with the right arch support and all that, and gave away my heels. So all of them.
Really just
Yeah.
wanting women, anyone who's listening, but really especially women, to feel empowered that you can change up your style. You can change up whatever.
Absolutely.
If it's
Yeah.
not working for you anymore, it's okay to say, I'm not doing it anymore. My
More.
friend April next door, she went to the dentist, and the hygienist was going through the process of cleaning the teeth, the exam and everything. And then she was tried to floss her teeth. You know how those hygienists do that?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
April said, it hit me. I am a grown ass woman. And I told her, no, I will floss my own teeth.
Own teeth.
No,
Yeah.
thank you. Don't do that. So anyway, don't come at me if you're a hygienist or a
Well,
dentist or
here
whatever.
is the deal. I mean, the key word is, I don't want you to do it.
Right.
I floss my teeth even under that little wire, because I have a wire. I wear
Yes.
retainers
Yeah.
at night. I do all that kind of stuff. I whiten my teeth sometimes, and if you just put on dark lipstick, your teeth look really white.
We're going to talk about the fun stuff too in the next
Yeah.
episode. I think part 3.
Oh, okay.
That's a whole other episode. We're going to talk about some of the fun
Anyway, I
stuff.
am going to be posting. I'm going to have a little bit of cleanup here, but I will be posting
Yes.
my observations and notes on this part of the what changes can you make in your life that will make it basically, stuff happens. It does.
Yeah.
But to set yourself up, you can set yourself up in a way that it doesn't that things impact you differently and maybe are less disabling than they might otherwise be.
Well, that's so powerful. And I love that we are having these conversations and sharing them with the world so other people can be set up for success too.
I hope
Thank
so.
you. We hope so. All
I'm
right. I
not
love
here
you.
to I'm not here to trash anybody, but
Yeah.
there are things that you can do no matter what your condition is.
Yeah. And if
I
you
love
have a nudge or an inkling about something, follow it. Follow the nudge
Yes.
for you, whatever that individual thing is for you. I think we just get very stuck around drink your water, eat healthy, move your body, but not really digging into how you do that. And I think that you
Yeah.
did a great job of sharing ways that people can actually practically put that into practice. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mm,
Talk to you soon.
yeah.